everyone, how are you? Welcome to today's live masterclass, How I Run My Multi-6-Figure Business in 3 days a week. I'm really excited for this one. As usual, I asked you all a couple of different things that you wanted to maybe focus on, and this was the one that was voted for. So I had quite a lot of people say this was the one they were most interested to hear about. So in today's masterclass, I'm going to be sharing really what it takes to run my multi-6-figure business in just 3 days a week in a way that's actually possible, that's actually feasible. That means I don't lose my sanity in the process. And I think what a lot of people are intrigued about, which I'll be diving in today, is that I do this without a massive following or list. I just recently tipped over the 1,000 followers mark on Instagram. Instagram hasn't been a platform that I focused on until recently. I don't use paid advertising. I don't have fancy pants funnels. And yeah, so what is my secret? That's what's going to be revealed today. What is it I actually do? So in the last masterclass I ran, that was how to be a no-brainer to your ideal clients, I shared the 3 C's. And today I'm going to share the 3 S's. So I thought I'd mix it up a bit, but I love to share things in threes because it helps make it memorable for you. So it's something you can take away from this. It's going to make it really easy to remember and hopefully allow you to put some things into practice to help you grow your business, which is the whole point of me sharing this, right? So obviously there is so much I could dive into today, but I'm going to center on these 3 S's. And these are really the overarching guiding principles that allow me to hit the financial milestones that I have in a way that ultimately works for me, my lifestyle, the life stage I'm at with a 1 and 4-year-old, and just make it all work and be doable. So we're going to go through those things one by one. I'm also going to go into the nuts and bolts detail of really how I bring those 3 S's to life and how I make them work for me. And then we will have some questions. So make sure that you grab a pen, you grab a notebook. You're going to want to take some notes. Yeah, so let's dive in. So as I said, I'm going to share the 3 S's that allow me to run my multi-6-figure business in 3 days a week. So S number 1 is simplicity. And I really cannot emphasize the importance of simplicity enough. So a little bit of background for those of you that don't know me that well. So today I'm a sales and messaging coach for service-based entrepreneurs. I'm also the host of Empowered Entrepreneurs Connect and Inspire, this Facebook group. But where I started out was as a brand strategist in marketing companies that create global multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar brands like Gillette, like Hugo Boss perfume, like Ben & Jerry's ice cream, like Lipton iced tea, like Tresemme shampoo, like Dove skincare, like Oral-B toothpaste. That was my world for like a decade. So I really kind of cut my teeth from a brand strategy and marketing perspective in some of, honestly, the best marketing companies in the world, the companies that invented TV advertising. So I really had an amazing exposure and experience to really what it takes to create an iconic brand that has customer loyalty, that stands the test of time, and that can literally become a global billion-dollar brand. So I've very much learned from the best from that perspective. And then in 2013, I qualified as a coach. So when I started my business, I just moved from London to Sydney, and I had this like shiny coaching qualification in my hand, and I was really excited about starting my business. And the only way I could make it work was 1 day a week around a 4-day 9-to-5, because I was trying to get into the world of L&D and HR, and no one really cared because my CV said marketing. So I started my own business, and I started in 1 day a week. Now, when we have 1 day a week on our business, we have no choice but to keep things simple, right? The only way to move fast and expand fast is to keep it really simple when you have lean resources and small capacity, okay? There's just no room for anything complex. And the way that my business works today is because I keep things really simple, which allows me flexibility. I have to have flexibility. I have a 1 and a 4-year-old, for God's sake. And there's no flexibility in rigidity, right? There's no flexibility in complexity. We have to keep things simple because then they are flexible and then they can work for us, right? So I like to run my business with a rhythm versus a routine. I'm not really into, on this day I do this and at this time I do that, and I batch X number of pieces of content per week or anything like that. I like to keep things flexible within a structure that keeps things really simple. What I learned from my background working for some of the biggest marketing companies in the world was a guiding mantra that has never left me and has literally guided me since day one in my business, which started 1 day a week, then it was 2 days a week. Today it's 3 days a week. And it's only been 3 days a week since I left corporate in 2018 when I had my eldest daughter, Ella, and I haven't gone back since. So I've never been full-time in my business. Now, this mantra is fewer, bigger, better. And this is what global billion-dollar brands live by and swear by. Fewer, bigger, better. Okay, that means not having hundreds of products in your portfolio, products on the shelves. That makes it complex, right? It means having clarity around your positioning, your messaging, what you stand for, who you serve, and standing the test of time. Okay, so simplicity for me, and that fewer, bigger, better mantra for me, how that translates in my business is firstly with a really simple business model. So I don't have heaps and heaps and heaps of different offerings and services and products and ways to work with me, because that would create complexity. I have one-on-one coaching offers. I have a 12-month inner circle mastermind. I have one group program, Magnetic Selling, which is going to be relaunched in a couple of months' time. And that is going to be evergreen moving forwards. Previously, it's been launched once a year. That's no longer working for me because it's not flexible enough. Okay, if I have to say to people, sorry, you have to wait till next year when it's an amazing fit for them, I know it could get results for them, I know it could help them, and they would be amazing contribution to the community, that's rubbish, right? So I'm shifting to an evergreen model. So anyone can join my one-on-one, my inner circle, or magnetic selling moving forwards, any time of the year, pending space in the group. That's super flexible, it's super simple. And then I only have like 3 online products: Nail Your Niche Masterclass, Perfect Your Pitch, that helps you get in the media and in guest speaking opportunities, and my 3-day replays of Monetize Your Magic workshop that helps you know how to really position yourself as that no-brainer to your ideal clients. That's it. That's my business model in terms of the offers I have. I keep it super, super simple. So that means that I have only got a few things to focus on at any one time, and it makes it easy to market, which leads me on to very simple marketing strategy. So as I mentioned at the start, I don't have paid advertising. So what do I focus on? Well, it's super important when we're adopting that mantra and that mindset of simplicity that allows us flexibility to be really focused. So choose your platform. Which marketing channel makes sense for your business? For the love of God, don't try and be on all of them. I actually had no social media presence at all for the first 18 months of my business. I was getting all of my clients offline because it was simpler and easier and faster to get clients through in-person connections. And I only had 1 day a week, and I had to use that time in a really meaningful way. So I built relationships and I got my clients that way. So 18 months later, I decided to go onto Facebook and officially kind of launch my business online in that sense. And for a really long time, like I'm talking years, Facebook was pretty much the only platform I focused on. It's just been in really recent times that I'm now also on Instagram. So that's pretty much where I have an online presence: Facebook and Instagram. I have my Facebook community, which is a massive priority for me. This community is like the biggest priority for me because it's where I develop relationships. It's where I can have interaction with you guys, create a dialogue with you guys, get to know you all, get to understand my audience in a way that I really can't anywhere else without that kind of responsiveness and that feedback as to what's working for you, what you need, where the gaps are. And then I have a YouTube channel, which is going to be a longer term strategy for me. YouTube is fabulous because it allows you to have that bank of content assets. So if someone's kind of stalking you online, which let's face it, we all do before we work with someone, then they can binge watch my videos. And that instantly tells them, am I the right coach for them? And I've had clients tell me, I first heard about you here, and then I went and binge watched a few videos and I was like, yeah, I want to work with Holly. So YouTube's a really great kind of showcase of your brilliance. So I have YouTube, but I don't have a podcast. I'm not on TikTok. I had to delete TikTok because I was spending an unreasonable amount of time watching stupid videos. I'm not on Twitter. I've never been on Snapchat. And I have a presence on LinkedIn, but I'm not active there. Okay, so I keep it really simple. Facebook group, and Instagram. And that's it. And I really recommend that I keep it really simple, and I encourage you to focus on that fewer, bigger, better mantra. Where does it make sense for you to have a presence? It's so much better if you have a more consistent visibility in one space and do it really well than spread yourself so thinly that you're not really going to get traction anywhere. Okay, because marketing and business is all about the relationships that you're cultivating. You can't cultivate relationships if you're kind of just in and out here and there to getting the takeaway coffee, right? You need to be able to sit down and have a conversation, have a chat, spend some time, show your face. And so something that not many people necessarily will know, I just actually shut down a Facebook group that I have had for a few years that had 3,000 members in it in my target market, because it didn't make sense to have two Facebook groups. And it hasn't for a really long time. And I was kind of holding on to it thinking, but there's 3,000 people in there. It seems crazy. But it wasn't making sense because it was a split focus. And I had to constantly decide, am I showing up live in this group or that group? And am I just duplicating content the whole time? That doesn't feel that good. And in the end, I stopped kind of serving in the way I wanted to serve in the other community. And I wasn't sharing my brilliance in that community in the way that I wanted to. And now that I have closed it and I'm just focusing on Empowered Entrepreneurs Connect and Inspire, which is my international groups. The other was like a local group for Australians and New Zealanders. Oh, it's like, so I feel so much lighter because I can focus and I can keep it simple, right? So that's just something, don't be afraid of like culling things. And that will go for offers, right? That goes for systems, for software. Like, what do you not need that's taking up headspace? This was taking up headspace for me, having two Facebook groups. It didn't make sense anymore. So we got rid of it. So in terms of my marketing strategy, it's really creating relationships in my Facebook group and having that online presence on Facebook and Instagram, having that showcase of content that positions me as a go-to in my space on YouTube, obviously having my email list. So making sure that I'm bringing in new leads through relevant, valuable opt-ins that speak my client's language. And then in terms of reaching new audiences, when I don't use paid advertising, it's through media and guest speaking. And it has been since day one. So the way I got my very first clients, when I literally knew nothing, was doing in-person speaking events, sharing my story, sharing my message, because ultimately when you strip it all back as to what really makes the difference in business and what people are attracted to and will gravitate towards and will pay for, it's showing that you hear and feel and understand them. And that comes through sharing your message and speaking their lingo and showing that you get it. And that's literally what I did. And I got $15,000 worth of work from my very first in-person speaking gig. I had no website. I had no online presence, no business cards, nothing. I really had nothing at that point in time, except massive passion and a desire to support and help other people with the things that I had previously been stuck with, which is what took me into coaching space in the first place. Okay, so how can you keep it simple in your marketing activities? So I do heaps of guest speaking. I do lots of podcast interviews. I do in-person events as and when COVID allows. And I do lots of, guest expert sessions for other people's memberships and groups and communities. And I love it. And those collaborations have just stood the test of time for me. I've had relationships in the online space with other people and other peers for several years. And, we've collaborated over and over and over again. And they always bring in new opportunities. It allows me to reach more of my ideal audience in a really intimate and trustworthy way, because I'm being introduced by the host of that community. So there's trust by default, there's rapport by default, and then having that focused captive audience for that period of time that you're running a guest expert session or speaking on a podcast. So this is a really meaningful, deep way to share your strategy, share your message, share your story in a way that's memorable and builds rapport and develops those all important relationships. And then the final piece with the first S of simplicity is, of course, systems and support. So I could not run a multi-6-figure business in 3 days a week without support, obviously, okay? Obviously. So I'm going to start with the support that might not be as obvious, that is a lot more kind of indirect to my business, but ultimately makes it all possible. And that is my in-home support. So I have a nanny, an amazing nanny, who allows me focused time, undistracted, uninterrupted. There's no way I could do this right now if I didn't have a nanny, didn't have childcare opportunities. I don't have any family support locally. I never have. My family literally live on the other side of the world. So I haven't got anyone I can ask to come and watch the kids when I need to. Like, that's just not an option. So we have daycare and we have a nanny. Then I have a cleaner, okay? Because it doesn't really make sense for me to spend several hours cleaning my house when I could be spending that time either growing and expanding my business or spending that time with my children. That's a no-brainer investment for me, an absolute no-brainer investment. And one thing that we have to learn as entrepreneurs, and I think women especially have to get our heads around this, is asking for help is okay. In fact, asking for help is a necessity. And it just does not make sense that if, if there's other people that could be doing the things that you're doing, outsource them. Because we want to own our brilliance. When we truly own our brilliance, and we can dedicate our energy to that and our full presence to that, because we're not, again, having that split focus between so many other different things we're having to think about and do, then we are going to have such more powerful impact. We're going to really be able to create that long-lasting legacy, like those billion-dollar global brands I'm talking about. The way we create a legacy is by keeping things simple and staying the course, right? And we can't do that if our energy isn't in check. So I have a nanny, I have a cleaner, and we also order home-cooked meals so that it's just one less thing taking up my headspace of what are we going to have for dinner. It's literally just like, do you want this or do you want this? Let's chuck it in the oven. So that is a godsend for me. And although that's not directly linked to business activities, it makes all the difference to my business as well. Obviously, start where you're at with asking for help. Start where you're at with outsourcing in terms of what's feasible from an investment perspective. But one caveat to that is we've also kind of got to really put our money where our mouth is, right? If you believe in your business, if you know that ultimately this is the future you want to create for yourself, then you need to take it seriously and you need to commit. We don't think twice about investing a lot of money in a degree, right? In qualifications and certifications. There's no guarantees at the end of those degrees from that piece of paper of what that's going to lead to, but we do it, right? We think nothing of getting a loan for our home, to build a home, put down roots, okay? And yet sometimes we have a lot of resistance to investing in our business. But if we were a bricks and mortar business, we would have no option but to commit up front, right? To rent the shop space and buy the stock and possibly hire the staff, right? So are you committing in the way that's taking your business seriously, that is really allowing you to connect energetically to what you're trying to create here in a way that's making it possible for you as well? So when I started in my business, I think it was like 2 hours a week I had for a VA. I don't care if it's 2 hours a week, 4 hours a month, but start outsourcing what you don't need to be doing so that you can focus on the things that make the biggest difference that ultimately grow your business, such as building relationships, right? Only you can build the relationships. Only you can create your offers and content. Only you can have the sales calls at this point, if you're in the early stages of your business. Then my team, so my actual business team. So this, of course, has grown over time. But today I have a VA. I have support with all of my kind of background systems. I have support with social media. I have admin support for my clients to really help with the service delivery. And today, I spend a year what I used to earn a year at the very start of my business on my team. Okay, so again, it's a significant commitment, but there's no way I would have reached the financial milestones I have now without that support in place. And as I said, that's built over time, because guess what? Business is an evolution. Entrepreneurship is an evolution. Okay, we evolve over time. We learn over time. We grow over time. So we've got to be prepared to plant the seeds in order to reap what we want to sow, right? If you want to bear the fruit, you need to plant the seeds first. And we plant the seeds with no complete and utter guarantee ever, but we have to take that first commitment. So where can you simplify in your business? That is the number one question for you. How can you embrace simplicity, which will give you flexibility? Is that shifting from a launch-only model to evergreen so that you can always bring in clients at any given moment of the year? Is it outsourcing something, whether at home or at work? Is it culling a social media platform? Is it culling an offer you just don't have your heart in anymore? The other big shift that we made from a simplicity perspective in my business and from a systems perspective was also shifting to a one-stop shop software platform, which was Kartra. So previous to that, there was a time when I had like 6 different online platforms all trying to talk to each other to have a funnel, and it wasn't working. So we've literally just in the last 12 to 18 months shifted to Kartra, which is a one-stop shop. It allows me to run my programs, gives my clients access to all of my content. I've got checkouts in there. It's got my email software in there, and it gives me data, much, much needed data to understand what's working and what's not. So S number 1 is simplicity. I'd love to hear, what are your takeaways? What are the action steps you're going to take? Gia says, I'll be outsourcing social media management. Yes. And that brings me to the final point, actually, that I meant to mention. Repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. Tattoo repurposing to your forehead, guys, because that is simplicity in itself. There is really not enough times, certainly not too many times, that you can share the same message, right? Because different people are going to resonate at different times. Different people are going to see it at different times. So one of the things that my social media manager does is repurpose past content of mine onto my Instagram channel, which means I can have an ongoing visible presence. And you can do this without a social media manager. You can do this just by scheduling, using a scheduler. There are free scheduling tools. But having that ongoing visible presence when my kids are sick, when I'm not feeling it, when I'm a bit blocked on what to create today, right? When I'm busy, when I'm tired, when I'm out playing with my kids, right? When I'm on my non-working days. So get into the practice of whether it's having someone do this for you or a system to do it yourself. But on my team, I have someone that literally content trawls. So she is literally tracking in a spreadsheet every social media post I've ever done, so that we have this bank of content to dip in and out of when we want to share something inspiring, and I've got new people joining my audience all the time. So there's plenty of content they've never seen, and repurposing things is a massive time saver. B, it keeps it simple. C, it keeps you consistent with your message, and it's just a brilliant way to do it. Another thing that we do is we transcribe a lot of my videos, masterclasses, calls. And again, my social media manager can dip into that for content to repurpose into inspirational quotes or into carousel posts on Instagram, into Facebook posts. We can repurpose that into email newsletters, and it can just travel so much further that way. So again, that's keeping things simple by having a system. The best part of it is, even though I've got other people working for me, it's still my voice. It's my message. No one's kind of writing it for me and then me hoping that it sounds like me. Yes, Renata, awesome. So repurpose, repurpose, repurpose in any way that feels right. But transcribing lives that you do, videos that you do, masterclasses that you do, a massive game changer, because then you've got blog posts, you've got emails, you've got, as I said, inspirational posts, you've got social media posts and content. So yeah, sometimes we don't really know what comes out when we're doing a video or a live, and until we kind of read it back and hear it back, like, oh, that's actually really good. And we can use it again. So awesome. So number 1 is simplicity. S number 2 is specificity. This question that you want to be asking yourself is, how can I laser focus? How can I laser focus and make it easy to get results? So this is really about taking that fewer, bigger, better mantra and going one level further. And for me, that's about going deeper, not broader. And that's in everything that I do. So I'm a big advocate, as many of you all know, of specializing. How can you specialize in your industry, in your niche, in your positioning, in what you offer, so that you can truly be seen as that go-to, so that you can be that no-brainer, easy yes? Too many of us spend too long straddling too many different areas, and all it means is we come across vague and generic and broad and confusing. And we're not that, oh my God, sign me up, yes, for our ideal clients, because there's too much they have to wade through and decipher and figure out. And there's too many dots they need to connect before they really get it. So when I talk about specificity, I mean, really, again, it's about commitment, committing to owning your brilliance as an expert, as a go-to in your niche and space. That is not to be confused with rigidity, again, from my earlier point, okay? So I'm a sales and messaging coach for service-based entrepreneurs. This specialism allows me to go deeper, not broader. It means I don't have to know everything there is to know about every marketing platform or every single tool in marketing or every single thing there is in the marketing space, right? I'm the go-to for sales and messaging. That doesn't mean I still have lots of different areas that I can play in. I support my clients with branding, with mindset, with launch strategies, with content, with copywriting, with, their vision, their goals, like so many different areas. But I talk about it and filter it through that lens of sales and messaging to make it easy to be seen as a specialist, to make it easy for the right people to find me. Okay, so how are you specializing? Because I used to call myself a career and business coach. A career and business coach, because I was straddling two massively different audiences of corporate women and entrepreneurs, because that was the evolution of my own niche and own entrepreneurship journey. I started off supporting corporate women in 9 to 5. Then everyone was asking me, how did you create a side hustle? Can you show me too? So then I started also delving into the entrepreneurial space. And I will never forget the number of times I sat in front of my computer, totally blank, like, who the fuck am I talking to today? I don't know who I'm writing this email to or what I'm saying. And then I would just be really, really super broad so that it could be relevant to both groups of people, but it wasn't really to either. And it just didn't work. And the moment that I dared to go deeper, not broader, and specialize as a sales and messaging coach, my business literally doubled. I'm making it easy for people to say yes to me. So that specificity mindset travels across every area of your business. How can you get more specific in what you deliver? How can you get more specific in the outcomes and benefits? How can you get more specific in what your offers are supporting someone to do? How can you get more specific in your messaging? How can you get more specific in your areas of expertise? Because guess what? The opportunities will flood in the moment that you do, and the moment that you are consistently sharing your brilliance and helping people to know that these are the areas that you are a go-to for. Okay, so now I get tagged in multiple posts a week as a go-to for someone looking for a sales coach or a messaging coach or a speaker on these topics, right? And that didn't used to happen because you're not going to tag a career and business coach as an obvious no-brainer. You might say, oh, this person's really good, but the person that's seeking the support is going to go with the, path of least resistance that makes sense, right? So just recently, I was looking for a personal brand photographer. I'm getting a photo shoot done next month. And I posted in a couple of Facebook groups, like, I'm looking for an amazing personal brand photographer. And I had tons of people tag tons of photographers. And there was only 2 that even really made sense for me to actually check out in any detail, because there were tons and tons of photographers who clearly specialized in weddings or did a bit of this and did a bit of that. Or maternity shots. And they were beautiful photos, but it wasn't making it easy for me to be like, hell yes, because I'm looking for photos that position me as an online business owner, right? And so the 2 it came down to that I was deciding between were the personal brand photographers. They were the specialists. They could clearly demonstrate they knew what they were doing in my context, in my space, for my needs. Their websites were all about someone like me. They spoke my language. They made it easy for me to say yes. They made it easy for me to decide. Okay. And it's the same with you guys, because the same way that it's really hard for me to choose a photographer for my business that has wedding photos and maternity photos and a couple of corporate headshots, it's hard for your people to know instantly you're for them if you're dabbling in a bit of this and dabbling in a bit of that because you're worried about excluding people you could technically, in theory, help. It's easier to get clients when we specialize. It's easier to get clients when we get specific. So that's really important. The other way that I go deeper, not broader in my business and get really specific is in relationships. So I have never subscribed to vanity metrics in the sense of it always being about how can I get more followers? How can I get more members? How can I get more leads on my list? I've not ever been about, more is better. I've always been about quality, not quantity. The truth is, we don't need a massive following to get amazing perfect match clients consistently and hit 500,000 in sales and above. And I'm proof of that. What we need is to know how to go deeper, not broader, and cultivate those relationships and build rapport and trust, because the people that are buying from you are the people that buy into you. And they can only do that when there's a trusted connection. And if you invest heavily and deeply in your relationships, not only with your audience, but with collaborations and your peers and your broader networks, you will be rewarded time and time and time and time again. Because A, it makes it the no-brainer because they know, like, and trust you. You're more likely to resell as well. So I, at points in my business, had as high as 70 to 80% repeat rate with my clients because I go the extra mile. I really get to know them. They're not just a stat or a figure or a number. And I have had so many clients come into my programs after working with a much bigger name in much bigger programs and basically say, I'm just craving the personalization. I just want someone who actually knows my name, understands my business, is going to take the time to really show that they care that I'm in their program, to notice me, to support me, and to go deeper, not broader, right? And it's harder the bigger we get in terms of a group or an audience to still have that level of intimacy. But it's the intimacy that creates that trusted connection that makes all the difference. And it's also this that leads to advocacy. So we should never be aspiring just for sales, okay? Sales is a short-term focus. What you want to be aspiring for is advocacy. Because when you get to a certain level of advocacy, you will never have to sell again because you have other people selling on your behalf. You have people raving about you on a daily basis to completely new audiences, spreading that word of mouth, advocating for you, talking about their wins and results and how brilliant you are and what an amazing lasting impression or impact you made. And that might not even be for people that have been clients of yours. That could be someone who heard you on a podcast and raved about something that really helped shift their perspective in that given moment. It could be that they saw you on stage or in a virtual community or, in someone else's group or membership, right? Make sure that you're going deeper, not broader, your relationships, because that will pay off time and time and time again. And remember that every time you create a relationship, it's not just that one person that you're creating a connection with. You're tapping into the possibility of the expansiveness of their entire network as well. Because again, when someone really believes in what you're doing and they trust you and they like you and they vouch for you and support you, they can open doors to multiple other people and organizations and communities and groups, literally beyond kind of the realms of possibility and the realms of imagination. So one of the big strategies I teach in my business is the who knows who marketing approach, because we never know who knows who, right? And once we're connected to that person, then suddenly we have, a toe in the door of all these other areas of their networks as well. And they're going to be so much more likely to support you. This is how you get on one podcast and then suddenly you've got 5 invitations for other podcasts, because if you have an amazing experience and the host loves what you brought and how you contributed and how you supported them, and it was such a win-win, they're going to rave about you to their friends that also have podcasts. This has happened to me time and time and time again without me even asking. Okay, so go deeper, not broader with your relationships. Thank you, Huda. Super, super important. And also, of course, with your audience. So showing up, show that you care, show that you're listening, asking questions. This allows you to get into the specific details of what really is it that your people want? What really is it that they're asking for? What is it really that they're struggling with? How do they describe it in their own words and phrases? So that specificity is what sells. Okay, so specificity is absolutely key in all areas of your business. And the final part of specificity is really reviewing what you're already doing. So when we go deeper, not broader, we hone our craft. We become the specialist. And I want you to have that mindset of like the iconic luxury brands that have stood the test of time, the Chanels of this world, the Gucci's of this world. They have been around through recession after recession after recession because they follow the principles of simplicity, and they also get really specific. They get into the details of what they do well, and they master their craft. Okay, so I don't launch tons of different things every single year and constantly one new offer after the next, because then I'm never really using what's already working as a springboard for the next thing. I think it's crazy when people say, oh, I'm going to launch this and then I'm never going to do it again. If it's successful, why on earth would you not? If it got people results, why would you not do it again and allow more people to access that? It's just crazy to reinvent the wheel if you have that existing foundation of success. So reviewing what's already working in your business to refine over time, to specialize over time, to hone that craft over time, that is how you're going to have literally a winning formula, to use that jargon. You're going to have a rinse and repeat model. You're going to become known as an authority for that area of specialism, for that offer, for that program, because you've just consistently come back to what's working. How can I do more of what is working? Because that is what propels us forwards. Okay, so tap into your existing success strategies. And the only way you can do that is getting specific on your results and your data and what's already working. Okay, so S number 2 is specificity. Let me know, what are your biggest takeaways from what I just shared about specificity? What is one thing that you could laser focus on or get more specific in so that you can hone your craft as a specialist and a go-to and ultimately grow and expand your business? Tell me in the comments. So just to recap, simplicity, specificity. The third one is staying true to me. So everyone knows, who knows me knows I'm a big fan of alliteration. I'm a big fan of acronyms. I'm a big fan of things beginning with the same letter, but I think it makes it really memorable for you. So I don't personally believe it's possible to run a successful business in the online space long-term, like year after year after year, long-term, and be growing year after year after year, if you're not staying true to yourself. So what do I mean by that? The question to be asking yourself here that should guide every single decision is, what feels good to me? What feels good? Because we intuitively know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Have we sometimes veered away from what feels good because we've been listening to louder voices that we believe must know what they're talking about? Yes, I have. Did it feel good in the end? No. Did I learn some lessons along the way? Yes. But, we know ultimately if something feels good or not. So the number one thing that allows us to be successful in business, in entrepreneurship, I believe, is trusting yourself. Because when you trust yourself, you trust your decisions. And when you trust your own decisions, you will make decisions faster. You will make more aligned decisions. You will be able to progress faster. You'll be able to take more calculated risks. You'll be able to up level and expand. But when you're not trusting yourself, it is really hard to make a decision. We end up staying in procrastination, in that limbo state of push and pull. We invite 1,000 other opinions in and wind up more confused and overwhelmed. We end up with paralysis of analysis. We just stay stuck. And then we kind of jump from one thing to the next. And maybe it's this that's going to work, or maybe it's that going to work, or maybe it's this that's going to work. When we stay true to ourselves, we can absorb knowledge. We can invite other inputs and opinions in, but with the filter of, how do I make this work for me in a way that works for me, right? How do I make it work on my terms? So it's not to say that everyone has to have a Facebook group, as an example. Oh, the successful strategy is to have a Facebook group. Successful strategy is to build community. Successful strategy is to build relationships. How can I build relationships and a community in a way that feels good to me is the question you ask. Okay? It's not, I've got to go and open a Facebook group, create a Facebook group, throw all my time into a Facebook group. If that doesn't feel good, if you're feeling resistance to it, it's not going to work. Okay? So ask yourself the bigger, broader questions, but stay true to you. Because when we really tap into that, we are ultimately unstoppable. And I never forget the words of a mentor that I had right at the start of my business, who told me, Holly, you're forcing it. And she was right. I was totally forcing it. I was like, what's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to say? What's the right thing to share? Like constantly, I was just so worried about getting things wrong. I was massive imposter syndrome. I was, I'm still am a recovering perfectionist. I was so worried about getting it right. What's right? What's right is what feels right. If it feels good, you do it. If it doesn't feel good, you don't do it. And getting really comfortable with saying no to things that are not aligned to us, that are just not meant for us. With the reframe that when you say no to something that isn't right for you, you create the space to say hell yes to something that is right for you. Okay, so see it as clearing space for the right opportunities to come your way. So staying true to yourself is also about doing what excites you. I want you to think about something that really genuinely excites you. It doesn't have to be about business at this moment in time, but something that you love doing. You can't stop. You just can't stop yourself from doing more of, right? When we tap into that, there is a buzz, right? We're covered in goosebumps. We have so much energy. There's so much momentum. We just can't help ourselves but do more of the thing. We wake up in the morning excited to do more of that thing, right? When we have excitement, when something excitement, it literally lights that spark. And I have so much excitement about the work that I do, but I haven't always. Okay, I've really had to go on that personal development journey and that evolution of what works for me in business, and learn to trust my own judgment in the face of what other so-called gurus say. Right? So I've been told a lot of things in the past about what it takes to be successful in online business, and a lot of it just did not fit with what was realistic for my world or my lifestyle or a part-time capacity. Okay, so I've had to take what makes sense for me and leave the rest and discard the rest and be okay with that. And I am so okay with that, because that's what works. And if I was trying to force fit to other people's business models that works for them, because maybe they have 5 days a week, maybe they don't have a 1 and a 4-year-old, maybe they get 4 nights sleep every night, then yes, maybe there's other things I could do differently. But right now, where I'm at this point in time in my life and in my business, I'm doing what works for me. Okay. And that's the most important thing for you. Do what excites you, stay true to you. So, where do you need to trust yourself more? Because from my NLP days, so I was fortunate enough to study with the co-creator of NLP, John Grinder, back in 2011, 2012. NLP changed my life. It was like one of the first personal development things I did following my quarter life crisis. And it was a very confronting time, actually, because I realized how little I trusted myself, how little I listened to my own intuition and my gut. And it took a while to actually reconnect to my body and my intuition, to allow it to speak to me again, because I dismissed it and ignored it for so long, but always assumed other people knew better than I did. So now I trust that my intuition will bring forwards what I'm meant to share in today's life, right? I have so many things I could say today. I had some notes that I wrote earlier. I probably will forget some of that. That's okay, because what comes through in this moment is exactly what was meant to. And I trust that. I trust that the people that sign up to work with me are the people that were meant to. And the people that don't, that's okay. Lovingly release, maybe someone else was meant to help them. I trust the timing of things. I trust the timing of my life. I'm a wildly impatient person. I'm so impatient. Of course, I want everything now. I want everything yesterday. Doesn't everyone? But I have learned to trust the timing of things. I've learned to plant the seeds. I've learned to commit to the longer term game, so to speak. Because as they say, entrepreneurship really is a marathon, not a sprint. And we reap what we sow. And I want you to think about success in business as being sticky, not shiny. So when we're sticky, we stick with things, we commit, we can get consistent, we find something that really gels. And when we're obsessed with the shiny things, we leapfrog from one thing to the next, and we don't commit, and we end up confused, and we confuse our audience, and it just doesn't work. So really be sticky, not shiny. And staying true to yourself. I've worked with mentors from the very beginning. I'm never without a mentor. I have invested an eye-watering amount of money in my own mentors, and I've learned something from every single one of them. But even when I have a mentor guiding and directing me, which allows me to have the laser focus I need and to get specific and stay on track and keep things simple when I'm stuck in my own head, if they say something to me that doesn't gel, then I'm not going to do it. Okay. I'm working with an Instagram strategist right now, and they had this idea for a reel they thought I should do. And it was just so not me. The idea of it was so not me. The execution of it was so not me. It was nothing to do with how my brand was going to be. And, they're quite new to working with me, so they didn't know that necessarily. But I was like, hell no am I doing it that way. This is what my brand's all about. This is the way that I think I could bring that same message across in a way that fits with me, is relevant to my audience, and ultimately, is positioning me in the way that I want to be perceived, and growing a reputation that I want to have, that I'd be proud to have, and leaving that lasting legacy in the way that I want to be known for. Okay. So staying true to yourself. How can you stay true to yourself? Where do you need to trust your decisions better? Where do you need to start listening more to your intuition? Where do you need to start saying no instead of yes? Where do you need to say no so you can say yes to the other things? Where do you need to give yourself permission to say yes, maybe? So I'd love for you to reflect on those types of questions. But staying true to you is really the only way to A, make this work, B, make it sustainable, and C, make it enjoyable, for sure. You do not want this to be a chore. You don't want to feel like you're pushing water up a hill. You don't want to feel like you've got resistance to it. You don't want to feel like it's like, oh God, I've got to show up again. Like, no, how can I show up in a way that works for me? That is the question. How can I sell in a way that works for me? How can I develop relationships in a way that works for me? How can I market my offers in a way that works for me? How can I be on social media in a way that works for me? Okay, so those are the questions I want you to start asking yourself, because suddenly it's just going to pave the way forwards. It's just going to release you from the shackles that might have been holding you stuck and binding you in one place, again, with that rigidity that just doesn't work for us, and instead allow you to just fly. Okay, allow things to be in flow. Stop forcing it. As I was told, those words have never left me, and now I allow things to flow. Does that mean I never get tripped up on things? Of course not. Does it mean I never have doubts or insecurities about things? Of course not. Everything is an evolution, and that includes the up leveling, getting to grips with different levels of success, as well as the failures, and the lessons from both is super key. So how can you connect to yourself more? How can you learn from both your setbacks and your successes so you can better understand what works for you is the surefire way to be successful long-term in business. So just to recap, the 3 S's: simplicity, specificity, and staying true to me. I would love to hear what resonated from that last one and what your biggest takeaway is from what I've shared today. I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you do feel that you would like some support on reaching your next level of growth and expansion in your business, then you are very welcome to connect with me. I do have one-on-one offerings, as mentioned. I do have my Inner Circle Mastermind. But once I better understand what you're looking for help with, I can make the right recommendation for you. So I'll drop a few links in the comments after this live, where you can either fill out a very short questionnaire to discover the ways to work with me one-on-one or in my mastermind. And I'll also drop a link to my Monetize Your Magic workshop for those of you that just want to get that kind of quick fire support and direction and guidance on how to get more specific in your offerings, in your messaging, and your positioning. A lot of the time, that is just what we need to skyrocket. And you can access that course for less than $100. So it's really bloody steal, to be honest. I was so excited to connect with you all today. And I can't wait to see what you take away from this and what you put into practice as a result. So it's been a huge privilege to share this with you today. Truly hope it's been valuable. And I will see you soon. Take care, everyone.